said 1, 2, 3, but 3, 2, 1 works just as well. We're back again, and we're going to talk about some features of our cathedral. And today we're pretty much up at the highest point in the cathedral, at least the highest point that people can comfortably be. We're in the choir loft. We're up in the choir loft looking down. And just as an aside, I'd say, and I've said this before, this is really the best place in the cathedral to stand and look at our cathedral as a whole. It really is a fantastic view. But today we're going to talk about the organ, very significant part of our church. But before we do that, I want to talk a little bit about the ceilings. I think most people in the cathedral are aware of the fact that our ceilings, as you look up at the ceilings, that's actually canvas. It's painted canvas. And there's a lot of speculation about why that was done, and probably there's a little bit of truth in most of the theories, but the primary reason that our church has these huge canvas ceilings is because of acoustics. The designers of the cathedral realized very well that an organ of this size, in a space of this size, if that was all plastered, it would be very harsh. The sound echoing back off the plaster would be very harsh. So an original part of the design of the cathedral was the canvas ceiling. There is a conventional lath and plaster ceiling up there, above that, but they put baffles on that real ceiling and then a sound absorbent material and put the canvas over that. So if you went up and you cut through that canvas, you'd probably find a bunch of sound absorbent material dropping down to the ground. And that was, as I said, for the purposes of dampening the sound of the organ when it was played. And it worked very well. I mean, this building has perhaps the best acoustics for instrumental music anywhere in the city of Boise. In fact, I think most of us know that the Boise Symphony and the Boise Master Chorale use this church every Christmas season to do performances of the Messiah. And you can't imagine a more fitting place to listen to that stirring music than in our cathedral. It is sold out months in advance every year. Okay, so, and taking this beautifully decorated canvas ceiling and following all the way back, it leads us to, again, to perhaps not necessarily the largest, but one of the most spectacular of our stained glass windows. That's the window, the circular window above the organ. In the middle is Saint Cecilia. Cecilia is the patron saint of musicians. And I'm going to defer to Dr. Ray and ask him to explain the various instruments that the angels surrounding her are playing.
Sure. Well, her anachronistic orchestra would involve, to the right on the top is a harp, and then to the left is a double trumpet. One would be a drone, the other would be played instruments. Then there's a triangle over here, percussion, a mandolin, it appears to be, a lute rather, looks more like a lute. A violin, and then we have a vocalist over here.
Well, thank you, Dr. Ray, for explaining those instruments to us, and there will be a test, okay? Yes. There will be a test, so remember what he told you about those various instruments. And now we're going to go back down and talk about what I like to refer to, and it's with absolute justification because it is the most expensive single item in our cathedral, and that's our organ. So I'm going to again ask Dr. Ray to give us some insight and some discussion about the organ.
Sure. Well, as you know, originally, the original instrument had 3 manuals. That's what keyboards are called on organs. They're called manuals, and they have names. This is the choir, this is the great, this is the swell, and this solo keyboard was added in the 90s rebuild. You notice each manual has a set of sounds or pipes that you can play for the manual. And you get those by pulling that out, and it gives you the sound, add, 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 add. So you keep adding sounds until you get the full color that you want. So the organ is probably the most dynamic instrument there is. You can play the whole range of sounds from, say, something nice and soft like this to the full range of sounds like now. One interesting thing is these knobs that you pull out are actually called stops, even though they turn on the sound. And the reason for that is the original organs of many, many years ago, all of the pipes would play. So all you would do is pull a knob to stop one of the ranks of pipes. Now, a rank is a collection of pipes for a manual. So when I pull this, I'm pulling one pipe for every key here. There are 60 keys, and for every key there's a pipe. That's called a rank. And the original organ had 44 ranks. There was that rebuild, the great rebuild in 95, you said, was it? Yeah, in which they added digital sounds. Now they did remove some of the pipes. So the organ is a combination of digital sounds and pipe sounds, which the term is hybrid organ. And there are advantages to that. And so this instrument now has more available sounds using the digital.
Now, I've got to interrupt you here for a minute, because when you say digital, I think very much of the 21st century. And so you're telling me that our 121-year-old organ is right with it in terms of musical technology today.
Well, in a lot of ways, yeah. And it's been added to over time. It's been enhanced. But the organ itself could be a model of technology innovation in many, many ways. But yes, if you would look at this in terms of the original pipe use, which is totally acoustic. The only thing that might vary technologically is how the manuals worked. The original keys, you'd push them down, they'd actually have a lever connected to the actual pipe, which would open it up. And this one has an electromagnetic keyboard. That means you push a switch and a wire opens the airflow to the pipe. So you can see we actually had some advances technologically based on the organ's history at that time. And adding the electronic sounds could be a way of saying, yes, bringing us into screamingly into the 20th and ultimately 21st century.
We're going to ask in a little bit Dr. Ray to play us a little bit of music on our organ, but there are two final comments I'd like to make about it. One is, we just discussed the fact that our organ technologically is right up there. But I have to mention the fact that when they installed this organ and the first few times they played it, as soon as they turned the organ on, or the blowers for the organ, I guess, all the lights in the church dimmed. Nobody had anticipated that. This organ draws a lot of power. And so they had to totally redo the brand new wiring in the cathedral so that they could play the organ and not have the people sitting in the dark. The other is, thing I'd like to mention, if we look at the backdrop to the organ, that arch up there, if you ever get a chance, come up here and look. That's the only place in our cathedral where you'll find ram's heads. They're all, a bunch of them all around there. And the reason for that is pretty straightforward. I mean, it goes from, we just talked about some very high-tech musical devices now. Well, the Rams gave the Jews the shofar, which was a very low-tech musical instrument, but the shofar was played for the holy days, for the Sabbath, which was always the first holy day, and for certain other very important ritual ceremonies for the Jews in their ancient religion. So that's why we have ram's heads up surrounding our cathedral. And now I think we're going to ask Dr. Ray to give us a little bit of a musical interlude to
play us out.
Play us out, right.
I do want to remind people that there is a video if people are interested in more about the organ and some more literature being played. There is a video that John is going to put a link to on the bottom of this, and please check that out. But in the meantime, by the way, I noticed there are grapes up there too. They must have known musicians were going to be up here, right?
That's right. It was wine. Yeah.
All right.